G'day everybody and welcome back. In this leg of the journey we're going to head to Alaska. From the time we got into Canada, having left America, we made our way into Calgary, of course sold the motorbike, the RV and the trailer. We were then in a position where luckily we had some money left in the bank account. We were pretty well down to meatballs and spaghetti there for a while, but the sale of vehicles allowed us to once again do a couple of things that we really wanted to do. And one of those was to go to yet another state in America, which was Alaska. And one of the most cost-effective ways of doing that, ironically, is to hop on a cruise liner and in this case, go for an 11-day cruise.
We're off to Alaska, friend.
Alaska?
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds mighty good. So we're booking out of the motel, room 137. We are out of here.
And it was an awesome motel.
We love your motel.
We love you.
Alright, so we're now boarding the ship, which is going to be taking us up to Alaska. Looks a little bit like this. And thankfully it's got life rafts. Based upon our somewhat limited experience on cruise liners, we now had a slightly betterly educated perspective on what to do. One was get your gear on, get settled, and make sure your accommodation's good. The other is make sure you've got your packages set up for what you really want. Or do you really need those packages? Drink packages being the case in this instance. And being that we were trying to stop drinking alcohol, we decided, no, we won't bother spending money in that area this time. We did, however, invest on a few excursions at different ports. This particular journey was going to take us up to in the proximity of 60 degrees north. This would be the most north we had ever been in our entire lives. To put that into perspective from an Australian perspective, if you were to go 60 degrees south, you would be halfway between the Antarctic shelf and Australia. Cruise liner life is one on its own. They pretty well offer you everything that you need to survive for the period of time that's on the boat and more. It's a shopping list of different levels of entertainment, of music, of cafes, restaurants on board the ship, and the choice is yours as to what you want to take on and what you want to do, a majority of it within the price of the tickets. So this one is Icy Strait Point, and it looks like we're about to dock. After 2 days on the water, our first stop was Icy Strait Point. Icy Strait Point is a pretty quick introduction into Alaska. And high on the agenda for us was wildlife, because surely that's what Alaska is known for. We wanted to see a bear, and we wanted to see whales. And we weren't totally let down, but did struggle with the bears just a little bit. It did not take long, however, for us to have our first encounter with the marine life. Our timing for humpback whale migration was pretty good, and they were at a point where their calves were young enough that they were trying very, very hard to develop some sort of chemical in their body which allows them to dive, and in order to do this they have to practice leaping out of the water and diving back in again. Don't ask me the science on it, but there is some reality in what I've just said. So the opportunity of seeing a whale breach was pretty good. Another beautiful thing out in this part of the world was the sea otters, who very, very cutely lie on their back, nearly as if they are sunbaking. And if they have young, they rest their young on their stomachs, which just makes the whole thing way cuter all over again.
Oh my gosh.
We are not without humpback whales in Australia, of course, as they migrate their way up from Antarctica all the way up the east coast of Australia. However, they were certainly putting on an exceptional show in this part of the world. The second part of our excursion in Icy Strait Point was to go out and find bears. This was pretty exciting for us because for our entire journey around America, we had not actually seen one bear in the wild. We had, however, seen lots of bear poo, an indication that bears do exist. Unfortunately, in this case, we could not find a bear, so we just had to settle with the fact that they are there and everybody is actually telling us the truth.
I'm not sure. But it's raining and where are we? We're in Icy Strait Point in the town of Hoona with 763 people. Anyway, this is a free gondola ride, so we're taking it.
Hello, Cindy.
Hello.
What are you doing today?
We're going on a gondola ride.
Gondola?
Gondola.
What's a gondola, Cindy?
Well, it's one of those things.
Oh, one of those. At the end of this excursion, it was just really nice to sit out in a bar, have a beer, and ironically catch up with some of the staff who were doing the entertainment on the boat. Hey, Sid. Well, the plan of attack today is we're in a place called Haines in Alaska. Going to head up to Battery Point Trailhead and then have a bit of a look and see what Battery Point looks like. Wish me luck. The stop-offs at different points, the likes of Haines, allow you freedom to do whatever you want. You can pay for excursions, maybe you can talk to somebody local and say, hey, is there anywhere I can go for a hike? In this case, there was a relatively simple walk to a spot called Battery Point. Battery Point came with stunning views, a lovely little beach, and a freezing cold swim in the water.
Great.
30 seconds later, I realised that the water was pretty well as cold as I could handle. but at least I could say I had been for a swim in Alaska. I'm not totally confident that I have all these ports in order, but another stop in our journey was Juneau, and our excursion in Juneau was basically what they called a tram ride, which to us was probably more like a gondola ride. It took you up to a viewing platform that had some amazing facts around the local Tlingit people and their history. Unfortunately, this time of the year, or probably most times of the year in Alaska, it's relatively wet, and that comes with a lot of cloud, so our visibility was a little bit restricted. It was a beautiful little ride, however, and when we came back down, we found our way to a bar that ironically housed a gun that was owned by Wyatt Earp.
We've just found deck 19 for the first time. It's got a walking track, a few sporty game things. Definitely right at the top. Okay, goodbye Juneau, we're just about to leave.
So we're on day 3, Cindy, or day 4? Day 4, night 3, so we've not all woken up actually.
Just woke up.
And destination today is Hubbard Glacier, which is a glacier which is actually still growing, I believe. So if you look up to behind us, we've been lucky enough, because weather conditions could easily have folded this, to get up to Hubbard Glacier, and the boat's backing up, and he's trying to get as close to there as we possibly can. You don't have to look too far down the coast to see the weather's not that great, but the fact that we can see these peaks at the moment is pretty special. Part of our itinerary was to make our way up to Hubbard Glacier. Hubbard Glacier is a rather big glacier, to say the least. It's not like we haven't seen a glacier before, but to have a glacier working its way into the ocean is another deal. And to be able to get as close to it as possible is an exceptional opportunity. Ironically, in this case, we did not even need to take an excursion. We were exceptionally lucky that the weather cleared around Hubbard Glacier. You don't have to look too far up the coastline to see that it did not clear anywhere else. And this allowed them to bring the ship right into the bay and take it very, very close to the face of the glacier. You'll see in this video here that they spun the ship around on its axis 360-degree circles approximately 2 to 3 times. And what this meant is that it did not matter where you were on the boat, you could just sit there and pretty well see everything. Their ability to do this was nothing short of amazing. This is a massive, massive ship, and we are surrounded by a lot of glacier ice. The opportunity for that ice to interfere or foul with bow thrusters or the prop on the back of this boat is not to be underrated. We were really, really thrilled to have this opportunity. port of Sitka was just another beautiful example of an Alaskan oceanside town. And any opportunity to understand the local history was always a good one. But every night, of course, you would end up back on the ship, and there was no shortage of entertainment. So I'll let this run for a bit so you can get a bit of a understanding on what they have on board.
On such a time was like, do you remember? I want to hear you sing it. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time to touch down, breathe around here too far. But the man I think that I'm no, no, no. I'm a rockin' man, sing it loud, come on. A rockin' man. Must be just get up. I remember when I was young, these shoes had so much fun, holding hands and skimming stuff. Had a look for the shell and a press in the heart. But here's get me ever down. Do the thing, kind of knock it out. Now the other kids are knocking on the clock. We're hopping, pop, go to the cracker down the line. Now I get my soul shine and my feet just can't keep still. If I don't be the time I reckon I never will. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. It's alright.
Helicopter engineer, let's just call it that. Well, if that was going to happen in Australia, the odds of being in that space would be this. But in America, of course, it's far larger.
How are you feeling today? Fantastic, I'll take it. My name is Olivia, I'm your cruise director, and I am so excited to bring you our second installment of North to Alaska enrichment programming this afternoon. With my students,
The Tlingit people were the original inhabitants of this part of Alaska. I think for most of us, be it through primary school or school, we were aware of totem poles, but understanding exactly what the totem pole was, why they carve it and how they carve it is a pretty interesting piece of education. It is a story. It is a story of the Tlingit history, and it is represented in these carvings. It was represented because they did not have a written language, and the stories would get carried down from generation to generation. Ketchikan, to say the least, was a really pretty little town. It was built on a river, not built next to a river, actually built on a river, in a maybe nearly Venice-style environment, but of course way younger. He'd come with a pretty cool lumberjack show, and being that lumberjacking in this area is pretty close to home, we thought we better go and have a look. It was cool, and if you're ever heading up that way, we would definitely recommend spend a few bucks and go and have a look. timeline goes, we happened to be on the boat on Canada Day. However, we were actually in Alaska, which is America.
Fantastic. Happy Canada Day. I don't know if you knew, so I thought that I would ask the nation to throw up all over me, just to make it clear that it is our day. I got a cake.
Canada Day falls on the 1st of July. Ironically, Independence Day in the USA falls on the 4th of July. They are two very big commemorations that nearly cross over. The ironic thing here being we were in America for Canada Day, and as the ship sailed back, we were back in Canada for Independence Day, so never really got to celebrate either. All the karaoke sessions, and there was quite a few of them, none of which we contributed to, thankfully, rolled up into one big final, and they called it The Voice. The final had some amazing talent and was nearly as authentic as the actual show.
When I look across the water, and I think of all the things what's doing in my head, I paint a picture. Since I come on home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair, every way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over that way? That way.
And this brought to an end our year of watching water go down a toilet in totally the opposite direction, of flicking light switches the opposite direction to turn them on, of trying to understand why marijuana is legal in most states in America, not to mention Canada, of course. It brought to the end a year of driving on the opposite side of the road, of course, remembering which side of the car to hop into when you actually want to drive it. It brought to an end a year of not really understanding how much we were paying for anything until we actually paid for it at the counter, because the tax laws differ in pretty well every state and province. And it brought to an end tipping laws, which we're not totally adverse to because they certainly create some pretty good service, but can add confusion as well. It brought to an end driving on massive multi-lane highways at crazy speeds at times, and it brought to an end a variety of different helmet laws from state to state. But more than anything, it brought to an end a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to spend a year in our life in a stunning part of the world to better understand the culture and people that exist over in the Americas and everything that they have to offer. And for that, we will be eternally thankful. So it's been 2 weeks short of a year since we left Australia, August the 1st, 2022, and we are now in the middle of July 2023. Well, actually, we're not really, July 2023. So we're going to lose the 7th on the way home. We depart from here on the 6th of July, of course, and we will arrive in Australia, a place where we haven't been for quite some time, Melbourne, Australia, on the 8th of July. We are naturally pretty damn excited to get there, and we are equally excited that we made it to this point. We lived on for the entire year. Sometimes when we went on shorter trips, we were just down to overhead luggage. Shorter trips being like Croatia, and maybe even on a cruise. And then for the rest of it, we've survived mainly on what's there. Of course, leaving Canada, we can't carry any more than the plane will allow us to carry, so unfortunately we don't have a lot of souvenirs, only what we've recorded on YouTube, and the photos were taken, and Cindy's Facebook and everything. So really what we've done is created a memory for the last year. And that, I guess,
Is that
is that.
the end?
The end of our trip to America.
The Americas, yeah.
The Americas, yeah.
The Americas.
As we hop on a Air New Zealand flight on our way back to Australia via New Zealand. We've made it to New Zealand, which is a good thing. Our next flight leaves in about 15 minutes. Well, it boards in 15 minutes through gate 15 and final destination, Melbourne, Australia.
Yay!
This brings to the end our journey to America, and here we are in Melbourne Airport, about to walk out.